Ooh, hey, well, aloha kako. Welcome everybody. Thank you for attending this brown bag session. Um, Brought to you by the Ke'o Center for Sustainable Island Food Systems. We welcome you all here today. Want to just take a moment to acknowledge our gratitude, not only for all of you for attending, but for all the blessings we have in our lives, for the energy we have to, pursue good work together, and try to enact positive change on our land and communities. Um, and so thank you very much for being here with us today. You go to the next slide, please, Ioane. So this series is part of an initiative by the emerging Ke'o Mau Center for Sustainable Island Food Systems. It's a new initiative situated within the University of Hawaiʻi, trying to bring some better collaboration and transparency around work the university can do in the food systems, and to really focus on improving, our local food system in terms of food security and justice and equity and ecological sustainability, work that a lot of people are doing at the university, but oftentimes kind of in their own little silos. And so, yeah, we are attempting to think about, what does it take and what can the university do to support food system transformations here in Hawaii? And that is part about the symbolism of our name. Ke'o Mau, literally is being used as a term for sustainability in kind of contemporary Olelo Hawaii. But what caught me was the term "o," which is a term used to describe food that's prepared for a long and arduous journey, such as when you set out on a va'a to do a long voyage. O is referring to the food supplies you take with you, and that's kind of what we see in terms of our local food system, that there's a lot of work to do, that it's a long transformative journey that we have to undertake to truly improve our food systems here in the islands. Um, and with that, I will turn it over to the co-director of the center, Albie Miles, to share a couple words before we get going on today's session.
Thank you, Noah. Aloha, everybody. Next slide, please. So in summary, the Ke'o Mau Center is really set up to engage in a number of research, education, community engagement, policy analysis, and monitoring activities. And there's a summary of some of the actions and work plans that we've set out for ourselves. And the intention is to, create that intellectual, social, economic, and even political space to drive systemic change forward in the food system of Hawaii to realize measurable sustainability goals. And we're building out our website. We'll be posting some of these materials that you can review it and at your leisure in the future. But I just wanted to summarize what are some of the core activities that we are engaging in and plan to engage in as the center evolves. Next slide, please. And so today we have two guests. We're very happy to have them. Kaipo from Hawaii Farmers Union United, and Heather McMillen from the Hawaii Urban Forestry. And so they have a fair amount of time to present a summary of their activities and their projects. And this speaks to the intention of this overall series, and that is to provide an opportunity for folks across the food and agricultural space to share their projects and initiatives with the larger community, so we have a better sense of who's doing what in the community, and ultimately identify any gaps that we might have that we can begin developing some programming around. So as I understand it, here we have some bio information here that you can read from each of them. I'm going to encourage them to also provide a brief summary and a bio for themselves as they're getting their talk going. As I understand it, Kiapo, you're going to go first, and then that'll be followed by Heather. So unless there are any outstanding comments from Ioane or Noah, then I'm going to turn it over to Kiapo. Kiapo, welcome.
Thank you. Actually, go ahead.
Kalamai, one moment, please. Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize for our attendees for this session, our questions will be taken in written form. We've disabled the ability for our attendees to chime in so that you can write your questions out, and we'll be monitoring them as we go, and any information will be provided further in the chat with that. Hey, Kalamai, go ahead, Kaipo.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so my name's Kaipo Kekona. Just born and raised local of Lahaina, Maui. Been a part of just a typical life in Hawaii. Born and raised here, so seen different job opportunities, whether it was in a service industry as a youth. From very young, my first job was working in the service industry, and then found I wasn't comfortable there, so I ventured into ag. There's all these different explorations I've done there. I've done a little bit of farming, working for farms on the Hawaiʻi Island, and most of that I've been here doing industrial farm work with Maui land and pine. So picked pineapples for a few seasons, seen how that all kind of worked, and then inspired to do my own. And that led me into the Farmers Union. So there's the Hawaii Farmers Union. I'm now the state president of that organization. This is my second year in that term. Up for elections again this coming October. Yeah, the Farmers Union had taken me into just a bigger scope of what the needs are and the challenges are for our state and our farmers and food systems. Looking at those things, and so Hawaii Farmers Union started a program in Lahaina on the lands of Kamehameha Schools, Ku'ia, the Aupua of Ku'ia. These are legacy lands from the Crown. It totals out to be just a little over 1,200 acres in Ku'ia. It is divided by the bypass or the highway that comes through Lahaina town, or just above Lahaina town, and everything Mauka of that is where I've been working on a 12.5-acre farm there. It's an educational farm site, so seeing some of the struggles as our population of farmers are much higher in age, and the next generation is needed to be prepared to take on those responsibilities, that kuleana of our food systems. I turned to education in that way, and so we began that program to explore food systems of old Hawaii. In Lahaina, there's a food forest known commonly as Kamalu Uluolele. And so that food system speaks to the abundance of wealth and health for Hawaii in the time of the Crown and pre contact from Westerners. And as that kind of changed and went into different phases of evolution, I guess we could say, we lost that landscape to the efforts to pursue sugarcane production in Hawaii. Our food forest was stripped and burned several times to erase that from the landscape. There was, much research done to identify what Kamalu Uluolele could look like. Even more research is being done now. Resources are being opened up that were previously maybe withheld from some of our reach. And so we find even more interesting things, right? Native testimonies, recordings of our kupuna that speak of the existence of that space and what it meant, even the timeline of the very first ulu tree to Lahaina. So our mission was always to bring back what we could, which would be just a very small fraction of any of it. Kamalu'ulolele historically was about 10.5 square miles. It went from an ahupua'a called Launiopoko all the way over to the northern boundary line was set by an ahupua'a of Wahikuli. In Kamalu'ulolele, there was numerous of ahupua'a. Lahaina is made up of 123 of those. So by far it's the most densely mapped out and identified ahupua'a system in all of the state or kingdom of Hawaii. More so probably because the registration was there in the kingdom, was right there in Lahaina. So we had access to that document as we built it. So the research in those things had led us to understand in detail what it should be looking like. Mapping took place based on some of our research, looking at our old water systems that traversed across the landscape, which foreigners reference as the Venice of the Pacific. All of that research kind of folded into this small little 12.5 acre educational farm site. And we built our soils there. We've never brought in any imported additives. We never used any fertilizers, herbicides, insecticides, pesticides that hasn't been created right there on site. So we do create our own with just some peppers and water from our own sources and salt and whatnot, and we make our own recipes there. But all in all, to try and not solve, but try to replicate the equity of soil that we imagined there during the time of Kamalu'ulolele. So since then, we've been there for about 7 years now. We've been harvesting taro, ulu, sweet potatoes, squash, papayas, primarily. Those typically go to our school cafeterias, and then our farmers markets. We now have we've submitted a proposal. I would like to do a screen share, but I'm not going to guarantee you that I'll be successful at that. So I'm not going to try. Computers technology is really not my thing. I am quite a Zoom guru lately, though. I need to start learning other things. But we've projected maps. We've worked with now staffed up with us. The USDA Natural Resource Conservation Department had a grazing specialist, a tropical grazing specialist, the only one in the nation. Just so happens to also be my sister. So we've been designing and working on plans to explore fuel mitigation while we expand the food production of Kamalu'ulolele. So livestock has been presented to the landowner, Kamehameha Schools. We've submitted all the details and plans and the financial, what do they call those things? Plans to determine what kind of work we'll be scaling up to and what kind of infrastructural needs have been identified. We also are working on a reforestation project that we have in the area. So that's just a little over 300 acres, but we're going to start as a small phase out and do a bunch of studies. So we've taken some botanists up there and have taken a look at what we have identified that has been living there on its own without any irrigation systems. And we've already began to propagate those seeds in masses. So you can think of ilima, pili grass, iliahi, ali'i, and wili for starters. There's also ule and pukeave. So those 7 native species are currently present in the Mauka, the up mountainland regions of our zone. We do have infrastructure in space and ready for that to be utilized to expand on that operation. However, the process we are in with the state water commission has put us on a hold. It's been a long time coming. So we've advocated for our water uses and systems, both traditional and contemporary uses for agriculture for quite a long time now, over 20 years. I've been personally involved in that. And the people before me of Lahaina and our kupuna and my mentors have definitely been having those conversations and that effort for quite some time now. We have put ourselves in a position where we can manage stream flows for Lahaina, but that has impacted the access for water for agricultural use as well. You needed to apply for permits. So in those permit processes, you identify your use and potential future use, but it was restricted to what we had and used. And so um, we put our proposals and applications together several years ago. I want to say about 2 years ago, and haven't been reviewed yet. And now the commission is in full capacity. The deputy director's position hasn't even been filled yet. But as that comes together, we are in place and ready to have Kamehameha Schools has installed their own infrastructure so that our water system is now independent and we no longer have to pay the neighboring PUC for the service of our water system. So big movement. We are acquiring a lot of the wood chipping mulch material from the clearing of Lahaina town. So we've kind of instantly become our own large scale compost operation. We are licensed on our site for composting to take place at a small scale. Um, so we'll be adjusting those. We are expanding our greenhouse operations. Albie?
Well, just when you have a chance, once you wrap up a summary of your own enterprise, could you then pan out and speak more broadly to the Hawaii Farmers Union United and the kind of the overall mission, 3 to 5 year goals and vision for the future? So sorry to interrupt, but I just want to also make sure we're stepping back and looking at the entire union's activities.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for us in Lahaina, that's kind of the overall thing. Propagation of natives and food systems will continue. We'll expand our full greenhouse in that operation. That's what we're working on now. That's all going through our foundation of our union. So the union is it's a charter to the National Farmers Union. So the National Farmers Union comes out of the continent, and it's the oldest agricultural organization in America. I believe it was 1902 or '06, one of those 2 years that it had been founded. And its mission was to always support family farmers in education, collaboration, and advocacy. And so you can dig up the history and all of that and what sparked the interest to unify farmers and get us together. But as far as for our state, overall, we typically are viewed as a uh, pro-organic or regenerative farming organization, which is pretty accurate, but not to say that we are exclusively that type of an organization. We are always open to working with all farming and food production systems in Hawaii. We do encourage best practices for the environment. We believe that that's a solution to our food security by far. So that's kind of ways that we meet those. We have programs with Arizona State currently right now that we're operating called the CCOF. That's Certified Organic Farms of from California. So California Certified Organic Farms. It's the only second organization or the system that can certify your farm as organic next to the USDA at the federal standard or recognition. So we're working to find out different practices in Hawaii that or sorry, that's a different program, but we're working with farmers to transition from industrial to organic practices and have them certified. It's a 5-year long program. There's various different organizations involved in there. We also have a Climate Smart, so a CSC program, a Climate Smart Commodities, which is taking a look at different practices in Hawaii that weigh their carbon sequestration over their carbon emission and determining which practices are most best practice for that, for Climate Smart and changes there. Uh, it looks at a wide variety of different types of farming, from ranching to fisheries and farming, obviously, different models and methods, different businesses and operations. and we take all the scientific data there. We have agronomists that are hired, agronomists, sorry, that are hired, and we'll be meeting with all our different participants in these programs in hopes that we can better direct support in the state. So then that turns around and gives us some data to speak to the need of support at state levels. We have 16 chapters statewide. So we have one chapter on Kauai, we have 4 in Oahu, 4 on the island of Maui, 1 on Lanai and 1 on Molokai, and we have 4 on um, Big Island, Hawaii Island. And so typically, you know, the simple grab is members will we are a membership-based organization, so members can apply for a $50 cost for a full year's membership, or you can get 4 people an Ohana membership, 4 people in for $100. You get all kinds of different discounts that are listed on our website. You can check us out at hfuu.org. We are in transition, so we're building out a different platform on our website, or our website is transitioning to a different platform. That's going to be exciting to see. We've took some time in there, put in some financial investments to make that happen and look better, be stronger and more navigable for the common person. You also have discounts on rental cars and hotels across the nation through the you becoming a member of the Hawaii Farmers Union. You also are a member of the National Farmers Union, which turns around and gives you discounts up there in the continent. Johnny Seed, all those different things are available through the membership as that. But we also want to start to identify more of what you bring as a member to the union, becoming a member, and the benefit that you provide as well as what we provide for you, access to other farmers and experiences and practices, cohorts that are within our organization. Those types of things are the bigger broad perspective. We do want to look now and pivot a little bit more towards reaching a stronger population of our multi-generational farmers. We also want to see how we can better serve the DHHL, so the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. They're the larger densely population of farming properties or ag land, and they have access to those at a long-term lease, which can typically or potentially provide a 4-generation farm. And they also have different rights to water that exceed most of our farmers. And so seeing that population is suitable to our mission, we'd like to see how we can better serve that population and bring in different programs there. In Maui County, we have a huge support from the county level. We're hoping to start to bring that out into different counties. So networking and showing what the support at a county level has provided for us at Maui County, and what we can hopefully have that duplicated in different counties. So those are, we have a FAM program. It's a farm apprentice mentoring program in Maui County, which allows our apprentices to go into different college courses. They're not credited courses, but they'll learn some business planning and farm planning. So they get those courses allotted to them, and they get a certificate in the end of completion. And then they also get a payment to go and mentor under a farmer. So farmers we've identified to be mentors by a criteria we have, and that allows the mentor to have time to organize themselves and work with a apprentice to help them learn the ropes and get to a better space when it's time for them to start to initiate their own farm and plan. So we're trying to bring that program across the state is our goal in the next few years. I would say we hope 3, but we would say probably more like 5 to get that successfully established, because there's staffing and all those things that you need to identify in there. And then the commitment and buy-in from not only the county, but the colleges, as well as the different community organizations that we'll be depending on to make those programs work throughout the state. That's kind of, in a nutshell. I'm just really trying to ramble off as much of our organization that I can. There's a bunch of little other things that are in there as well. we're just about closing off on the hiring of a COO, a Chief Operating Officer, which we're hoping to expand or help us clean up. You know, we've been growing quite a bit lately as an organization. And with that comes the challenges and the pains of growing, you know. So we're working on those. We're looking as well as the next position we're hoping to fill is a program director or manager. So then that can help us carry our programs out to across the state, organize the ones that we have, work further with those chapters. So going back to our chapters and how they typically work, they pretty much have their own autonomy. We don't really restrict them as long as they're listening to their population of farmers in their region, in their area, and they advocate for them. That's how we support as a statewide organization. We find their needs if we can. If we can, we have a nonprofit as well as a 501c5. So we have a 501c4 or C3, and we have a 501c5. The C3 is our foundation. It's running most of our programs. We hope to have that better serve the broader state. Our 501c5 allows us to be at the Capitol advocating for change in food systems and support. We have a paid advocate, or some people identify them as lobbyists. They are at the Capitol every session. They work throughout the communities to develop policies to be considered. So we present, everybody brings policy to our convention, which is happening this October 5th to the 7th at Maui College. We're partnering up with the Tropical Fruit Growers Association and the Office of Innovation and Food Systems with the college on Maui. And we're going to be co-hosting our convention there. On Sunday, we typically hear from all the different chapters on policy interests. And then by the end of the Sunday's gambit, we identify what our priorities are for the next year in office, and we work on that from there. So once we can identify, typically we look for top 5, but we select 15 that we want to keep track of, introduce, and look for champions to take that over and into the session. So it's kind of in a nutshell how we operate and what we do. Yeah, if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Kaipo, thank you so much for that overview. I think what we'll do is, in the interest of time, just to make sure that we have give Heather an opportunity to provide an overview of her work and organization. Why don't we turn to introduce Heather, and she can provide an overview of her work, and then we'll leave some time at the end of this session for Q&A. I'll collect some of the questions in the chat function. But Heather, why don't we turn it over to you, and we'll give you a good 20 minutes to provide an overview based on some of the elements I included in the chat. So thank you, Kaipo.
Okay. Mahalo, Albie, and thanks to Noah and Ioane as well for organizing this, and mahalo to Kaipo for getting us started off and warming us up here. I just wanted to say I really appreciate being invited to this series, and I appreciate the intention and the approach, you know, the systems approach and the intention to expose different elements of, you know, really the diverse organizations and agencies that play a role or should play a role in our food system. The one that I'll describe today is quite different, unique. We're sort of in this in-between space, but before I kind of dive into it, I just wanted to introduce myself, Heather McMillen. I work for DLNR in the Division of Forestry and Wildlife. I coordinate our Kaulunani urban and community forestry program. I've been doing this for about 6 years. My background is in, I mean, really at the central to it is the understanding that natural resources are cultural resources, and a real interest in community-based resource management, and especially as that concerns health and well-being, which food is central to. I was I was born, I was, germinated and sprouted on the slopes of Kilimanjaro in Tanzania in East Africa, but I grew up, I became a seedling and a sapling in the continental Midwest, and I've been in Hawaii for almost 30 years, now living in Palolo. It's interesting that a lot of the agroforestry in the volcanic area of East Africa looks a lot like the agroforestry here, actually. Yeah, my background, as I said, is in sort of interdisciplinary studies. I've done some research with the Forest Service and as a researcher with UH. Since taking on this position, I have become a certified arborist, and I'm an affiliate faculty at UH in both NREM and in anthropology. So I maintain ties to that kind of work as well. It was really a pleasure for me to step into this role in this program. One of the first things I did was break down the meaning of Kaulunani, referring to Fukui's translation. And Ulu talks about, growth or sprouting, spreading out, even a grove. Nani is beautiful, but Ulu also means to be inspired by spirit or to be excited. So that's really what we try to bring to this work, is excitement, inspiration for this vision of spreading out the groves and connecting communities, both human and non-human communities. So communities of trees and communities with people, or people in trees. Maybe I'll just get started here, share my screen. Now I don't see the share button. Maybe it's in the more, hang on, share, oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. Right, this is a picture of a food forest that's right here by the H3. This is managed by Mark Stride, right near Monowili, or right near Kaneohe. I just want to thank Sky Haraga, my Kupu Aina Corps member, for helping to prepare this presentation today. So the mission of our program is really to improve health and well-being of our communities, and our entry point for doing this is through trees and through forest. So we're focusing on equity to cultivate well-being and resilience through restorative and environmental justice, through planting, caring for, and growing relationships with trees and forests, where we live, work, learn, and play. In the last few years, with support from our advisory council and Puni Jackson from Ho'olu Aina, we've created an equity and justice statement that you can read in full at our website, but really it's emphasizing that our work is best carried out through engaging diverse communities and beliefs and experiences, with a focus on underserved and low-income communities, as well as Native Hawaiians. Just for some broader context, where our program fits within the org chart of DLNR, which is under the Board of Land and Natural Resources. In yellow, you see about a dozen different divisions that are under DLNR. In gray here, the Division of Forestry and Wildlife has 5 different programs. Forestry is one. There are public programs and private programs, and Kaulunani is the public-facing program, working in land that is not necessarily state-administered land, which means that pretty much everything that we do is in partnership with counties, with nonprofits, with schools, churches, neighborhoods, community groups. And so I really think of our work as being based in the Wau Kanaka. We focus on trees where we live, work, learn, and play, and to focus on forestry in an island ecosystem, you have to include food producing trees. And so I feel like I spend a lot of time talking to my forestry people about how the work that we do really is a kind of forestry, because they get hung up on this urban designation. But if we just think of urban as the Waukanaka, where people are based, then it's maybe easier to understand. But they don't always see this as forestry. And maybe today I'll be trying to convince you that what we're doing is also contributing to food production and agriculture, but not in the ways like that Kaipo is doing, for sure. We're kind of in this in-between space. This is just a quick look at our Kaulunani team. I have some wonderful people that work with me and help to foster partnerships with all the groups that I mentioned before. Today, really the strength of our work is the strength of our partnerships and our relationships and the success of the work that communities are doing. And our role is really just to amplify and lift up the good work that's already happening here in Hawaii. We are guided by a volunteer advisory council. Shout out to Noah Lincoln, who is one of our council members. We meet quarterly, and we have a really strong group that advises our program, reviews the grant applications that come through to get some capacity building and support, and helps to shape the work that we do as a program, but also as a larger division of forestry as well. Just quickly, again, I know some people get caught up on this concept. What does urban forest mean? It seems like an oxymoron, but we're talking about trees on private property, so trees in your backyard or your neighbor's yard. We're talking about street trees. We're talking about parks. We're talking about trees on campuses, whether it's K through 12 or a college campus. We're talking about rain gardens, pocket parks, and we're also talking about community agroforestry sites, as we'll dive into a little bit. One of the things we really try to emphasize are all the benefits of trees. I never realized there were so many people that didn't like trees until I got into this position. And so we help to communicate why trees are important, which is represented here. And one of those is food security or food sovereignty even. Just briefly, our overall program goals are to be educational, to enhance people's understanding of why trees are important. And by people, I mean everything from kindergartners to legislators. Our goal is to increase our tree canopy cover in the places where we live because of the benefits that the trees provide, the ecosystem benefits. We support community tree planting and tree demonstration projects, and I'll get into some examples of that quickly here in a moment. And we also provide trainings or support for folks to build their skills and knowledge of trees, how to manage them, keep them healthy, grow them, etc. And we collaborate with some research as well. So we have a grant program, which is really the basis for how we engage with a lot of community projects. We support a Tree City program, which you can read about on our website. Arbor Day Hawaii is probably our biggest outreach event of the year. And that's an opportunity typically for community members to adopt trees and to get to plant them in their own places. We have some geospatial tools that I won't get into here, but encourage folks to explore on their own. We have a tree canopy viewer, which is a statewide interactive geospatial tool where you can understand the relationship between tree canopy and other socio-demographic and health variables in communities across the state. And we have our stewardship mapping and assessment project, which is like an inventory of INA organizations working on stewardship. And we've mapped this out in Tumoku on Oahu and Tumoku on Hawaii Island. And we also provide support through community workshops, which I'll get into a bit. So this last couple of years has been a game changer in terms of the support we've gotten from the feds and what we're able to then turn around and give to community efforts to grow and plant and educate more about trees through the IRA and BIL grants. But we're really excited to continue this work. So again, Arbor Day, I invite you all to participate in that. It's always the first Saturday after the first Friday of November. This year, November 2nd, and there are events going on across the state. The ulu and the Meyer lemon are always the most popular and the first to go in the tree distribution. So this is one small entry point for thinking about food, growing food in our backyards. Other ways that we support food systems with our partners are through the fruit tree, food tree plantings and adoptions like Arbor Day, but not limited to Arbor Day, supporting the propagation of these trees, helping to support the establishment or enhancement of community agroforests, and providing technical training as well. So I'm just going to share some examples of these different categories of groups that we partner with to carry out this work. In terms of tree planting and tree adoptions, Kaulunani o Waimanalo has been doing everything from tree adoptions to workshops to scaled agroforestry projects. There's been a Fruit Trees for Schools project supported by Hawaiʻi Public Health Institute. And this has been a statewide effort to get fruit trees planted in especially our Title I DOE schools. And Malama Kauai and Sustainable Molokai have partnered to do tree distributions for DHHL residents in past years, focusing on fruit trees and Polynesian introduced trees. In terms of propagation, we have supported Amy Greenwell Ethnobotanical Garden in doing workshops on air layering and grafting for community members. At UH West Oahu, the Ulu Niu project has been growing and distributing hundreds of niu of different varieties and also tracking those. On Oahu, UH Manoa CTAR has been working on a project to propagate ulu and get them grown to larger size by working with the DOE nursery and then having them planted in Title I DOE schools as well. So trying to really bring the farm, to students. In terms of community agroforestry work that we've supported, first I think of Ho'oulu'aina, which is one of our longest relationships in terms of partnerships. They're based on Oahu, a program of KKV really focused on a holistic perspective on health and well-being for communities with a focus there in Kalihi Valley. We've supported Pu'uhonua o Waianae Mauka with the establishment of their village, their Kauhale village up Mauka from where folks had been down at the boat harbor. And they were really amazing. And just before they, got their houses built, they established the fruit trees around the perimeter of the property. Kako'oiwi, also on Oahu in Heia, is another example of a project doing both reforestation and agroforestry. I mean, I think an important message is that, what I understand in traditional times, like these lines weren't so hard between forestry and agroforestry. There was a lot more fluidity. So I think it's important for us to take a cue from that understanding. On Maui, a brand new project, Grow Some Good, is doing an agroforest right next to the YMCA in Kahului. And Amy Greenwell continues to do great agroforestry work on Hawaii Island with all different kinds of projects. In terms of technical training, Ma'o Farms has brought in arborists to help their farmer interns learn how to better take care of their fruit trees. And it was pretty exciting because a short time after getting this training and doing a lot of pruning there, they were already noticing an increase in fruit production. Malama Kauai has brought in Ken Love to do workshops there for small farms who are growing fruit. Here on Oahu at Kaulunani Farm, they had training on chainsaws. Again, more work in Waimanalo, and with our own forestry nursery here in Makiki, we provided some phytosanitation training in response to what our community partners were asking for. You know, how can we make sure that the things that we're growing have the best chance to survive once they're distributed or put into the ground? Future goals that we have, I'll first mention 2 programs that we're just getting started. We just hired an Indigenous coconut specialist, Indrajit Gunasekara, to lead our community coconut program. And we are about to get started on, you know, the vision on the picture on the left is a vision for the future. The picture on the right is what many of our schoolyards look like now and what we want to transform. So doing a lot more work to grow shade in places where Haumana spend their time. And while this project isn't focused on planting food trees or fruit trees, it can allow for support for care and maintenance for campuses that already have those tree care support. Like I said earlier, like I never realized how many people really just don't like trees until I stepped into this role. And so one of our biggest challenges is to change hearts and minds, to get people to understand trees as assets, trees as family members, trees as ancestors, trees as key to providing, you know, the well-being and nourishment for our families, and to really move away from talking about trees as a nice to do or as beautification. Another big challenge is to normalize having food trees in our schools and in public spaces. There are a lot of obstacles to that, a lot of litigious concerns there. And as anyone who's growing food in Hawaii knows, pests are a big challenge. We're really concerned about CRB and LFA as it impacts our partners' work. So thank you so much for, again, the invitation and your time. I'll just leave it there. Welcome any questions.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Kaipo, for your overview presentations. I'm going to drop into the chat just a summary link where you can gain access to this recording once it has been posted, but all previous KML Brown Bag sessions will also be available there. We'll show a QR code in just a moment that you can also use to go to this same site. Before we bring this to a close, we have a few minutes. So if you have any questions for either of our guests, go ahead and drop them into the Q&A or the chat function, and we'll present them to our guests. And I will ask a couple of questions just to kick us off. And the first one being, and please, each of you, if you could just take a moment to respond, is what are some of the key challenges you face, your organizations face? Presumably it's going to be funding as one key issue, but Kaipo, Hawaii Farmers Union United, now, what are the challenges faced by the union in terms of scaling its impact? And then I would pose the same question to Heather in terms of scaling the impact of your programming, its reach into the community.
I'll say currently, our capacity at one point, our membership was at the high 1400s, and after pandemic and some other obstacles that we went through, our membership is fairly low at the moment. But we do have a broad reach, and I think we, in the past years, as far as an organization and structuring, we've grown so much, and we are seeing a lot of more potential to grow more, and the support systems there. So capacity is where I think our biggest struggle was at, and we're addressing that now. I think we'll be getting to a better position, and we look forward to even growing larger and keep going.
Mahalo. Same question to Heather. What is any key challenges that you're facing that you want to share with the audience today?
Maybe just to reiterate what I mentioned before is that folks might necessarily understand our program as one that touches on food production or agriculture, but it does at a different scale. And so a lot of what I've been doing is trying to build the community of urban and community forestry, so people understand that it does include agriculture, it does include health, it does include education and transportation, and really bring people into the same circle together. Honestly, one of our challenges is our agency doesn't have the best reputation with communities, and there's a long history to that. So some of our work, and we're taking it slowly, is just really to build relationships, to listen, to see what people are valuing, where are opportunities to lift up the good work that's already happening, or learn more about opportunities where we might be able to bring some resources, whether it's financial or technical, or just helping people connect with each other. That's something that we've really found value in and gotten a lot of feedback from our partners, is how valuable it's been for them to learn more about other community-based work that's happening. So those are some of our challenges. Of course, funding. I mentioned we have this big influx of federal funds, and that's going to go on for the next few years, but then what? We will not only us, but there are a lot of urban and community forestry programs that are given this bump across the country. And so what happens when those finish? We want to maintain that momentum and really to institutionalize that work, like with the community coconut program and the work in schools. Those are essential. Those shouldn't just be short-term, 3-year projects. So.
Very good, thank you. I have a question from a participant in the brown bag, and it is directed to Kaipo, and it is in the Farmers Union United. How many farmers are kind of large scale industrial? I assume this is like conventionally managed systems, and how many are organic or regenerative, if you know that question. So that's question one. And then how do the different types of farmers, they ask, how can they learn from one another? So Kaipo, I'll turn that over to you about the ratios of industrial or large scale and those that are organic and regenerative, and how can they learn from one another?
We have, sure, I'll speak to a little bit about it. We have no, to my knowledge, we have no industrial, large scale, like farming entities, businesses, organizations involved or directly members of our organization. We do have people that are employed with larger scaled industrial ag systems that are members of our union, but not directly connected to their work. They are interested in establishing or venturing on their own, and we have that type of membership. Predominantly, by far, the farmers that are in our union are organic and regeneratively. Definitely all our leadership is. We don't limit it to just farmers. Anyone can be a member of the union. You're a consumer, you support agriculture, you can become a member. You don't have to be a farmer to be a member of our union. So we even have membership that are non-farmers, they're just consumers. But they support local and our family farmers. Our mission is family farming. So any family farms that are, we don't have room, we don't take corporate or business membership into our union. We only accept family businesses into there. So that's kind of that answer. How to communicate and work. We have conventions, we have quarterly meetings, or quarterly get-togethers. We have chapter meetings. Island-based chapters get together and they organize their own island-based chapter meetings. Farmers within their own community can attend. Most chapters have a monthly meeting. Some are bi-monthly. Typically what you'll see them do is chapters take their membership that attend meetings to farms once a month, and go and work on projects within their membership, support other farmers. And then the next month, they'll be meeting in more of a meeting space kind of environment and discuss their issues or needs there. We also have a ton of video out on YouTube, so that's where anyone can really view that, I believe. During the pandemic, we had a few speaker series that involved music and a speaker, all in revolved to agriculture and programs or methods of those things. So that's kind of networking systems that are available. Of course, you can get on our website and check out a lot of the different chapters and figure out what their calendars are, what they're doing, and you can check in and see what's happening in your region. And yeah, that's kind of ways that we promote, networking within our membership and other farmers.
Fantastic. Mahalo. I think we can end on the following question from one of the participants, and then we'll bring this to a close. And this is for both of you. The question is, how can we support your efforts at the policy level? So why don't we start with Heather, and then we'll come back to Kaipo. So question is, how can we support your efforts at the policy level? We have an upcoming legislative session. So any responses to that question would be fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I would love to see some kind of tax incentive for people keeping trees on their private property. I mean, if you look in urban areas, a lot of what people, if there are any trees in some of our neighborhoods, they are the only ones left are mango trees, lychee, avocado. So these trees that are providing all these benefits that trees provide, they're fruit trees. And so can there be a tax incentive for people to keep those trees on their properties? Hawaii Island has an example of tax incentive for folks to keep native forest on their property. That's at the county level, but having some incentive, our urban forests are diminishing across the state, and we're not close to what we need for healthy communities. So that seems like a nice way to get in.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Is there a specific bill that you understand will be introduced this legislative session?
No, but maybe someone wants to introduce one that's here in the room.
Okay, very good, very good. So generally look out for kind of urban forestry bills. That would be the recommendation in terms of tracking and getting behind some from state policy. I'm going to turn to Kaipo in the last few minutes here. Is what can participants do to support your efforts in terms of legislation?
So at the bare minimal, you could be a member of the union, and that gives us that weighing power when we walk in and we can say, we represent this population of Hawaii, so on and so forth, as we advocate and introduce bills. Interesting enough that Heather had mentioned the urban type of perspective there. We typically do work on a lot of bills. We listen to our farmers, our members, and then we develop policies within our policy committee. So we have that going, and then our advocacy director takes it over to Capitol and does all that work. I spend a good amount of months there at the Capitol during that timeline. So we're constantly at the Capitol advocating for our policies and our bills. We are intricately intricately integrated in the rebuild process of Lahaina. Been constantly in that focus and discussion of how food systems are integrated with that process. And there's an old food forest of Lahaina, Kamalu'ulolele. It's the agroforest of Hawaii. Very famous foodscape. We want to see that integrated in today's society alongside the Vau Kanaka, the Vau Kele, and the Vau Akua. And so all of those vowels exist within a harmonious existence. And so when we work on that system, integrating at the Vau Kanaka, if you will, Vau Kanaka goes very much far. The lines do tend to blur. Is clear in understanding based on the environment's health and condition. Anyway, when we look at that, we're talking about introducing, policies that would give incentives, tax breaks, even for local produce from restaurants that are picking up, they get a tax incentive. We need to figure out ways to encourage and entice not only our population of farmers, but the community at large, right? We need to get them to value the agricultural industry and food systems. Some people say make it sexy. So that's, to me, putting lipstick on a pig. it's not easy work. It's not fun. It's rewarding in its own way, and you find that when you do the work. But yeah, getting involved at the policy level for us, membership, testimony. We have bill trackers that we've created for ourselves. We monitor and track all ag bills, all food system bills. We weigh in on all of them. And then we communicate out into community to be aware of even bills that we aren't responsible for, but we are in support of. So those are always available. Yeah, that's kind of what I would ask for. Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you, Kaipo. And just in the interest of time, I want to respect everybody's time. We are showing here our last slide in the bottom left is a QR code that'll take you to the recordings that are housed at the Transforming Wise Food System Together initiative. Also in the URL is the URL is in the chat function that'll take you to the same site where we will be posting this recording. I want to stop and just say thank you very much to Heather and Kaipo for participating today. We very much appreciate your time. Thank you, Ioane, for helping to organize this event. And thank you to all the participants for joining. Our intention is to offer one of these speaker series every month. And so if you have other organizations that you want to recommend, step forward and provide such a summary, we'd be happy to entertain your suggestions. So thank you all very much for your time. And we will see you all soon. Aloha.
Aloha, mahalo.